I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. Pain is my own idea, it is not a thought of God. Pain is my own idea, it is not a thought of God. But one I thought apart from Him and from His will. I thought apart from Him and from His will. His will is joy and only joy for His beloved Son. God's will is joy and only joy for His beloved Son. And that I choose instead of what I made. His will is joy and only joy for His beloved Son. And that I choose instead of what I made. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. Pain is my own idea, it is not a thought of God, but one I've thought apart from Him and from His will. His will is joy and only joy for His beloved Son. And that I choose instead of what I made. His will is joy and only joy for His beloved Son. And that I choose instead of what I made. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. Wow, we can make that choice, huh? I choose the joy of God instead of pain. Well, I'm Miracle Willie, forgiveness teacher from the Ozarks. And I'm so glad that you've come to study A Course in Miracles with me. We're reading from the Foundation for Inner Peace version this year. We're on Lesson 210, which is our 6th review. And this is a review of Lesson 190. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. Pain is my own idea. It is not a thought of God, but one I thought apart from Him and from His will. His will is joy, and only joy for His beloved Son. And that I choose instead of what I made. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. And we're to do 2 15-minute practice periods, morning and evening, and an hourly remembrance throughout the day. Try for the top of the hour, but at some and then during the hour, to bring it to your memory whenever you can think of it. Keep this idea alive. It's a really wonderful operating system we're trying to learn to download into our minds. Okay, I am not a body. I am free, for I am still as God created me. And I choose the joy of God instead of pain. You know, cheerfulness is a choice. Every decision throughout the day is a choice between your will and God's will. So, you know, let God. Once you fall into kind of the flow, you don't have to like think, okay, I'm choosing God's will. It's just you just know that cheerfulness, joy, lightheartedness, happiness. Those are the qualities that will let you know that you're following God's will and not your own. Use forgiveness to restore yourself if you find you're following your will of judgment and ego. Okay, ask for guidance in those hours, and those hourly remembrances. Okay, God, what do you want me to do for the next hour before I have a sweet hour, a sweet moment, a sweet minute of prayer with you again? And then go back in the next hour and say thank you for the things that happened to you. Just tell yourself today, I choose the joy of God instead of pain. And then ask Him for guidance for the next hour. And of course, throw in, I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. Okay, let's go back and look at our text reading, and we're ready to start a new chapter. Chapter 23 in the text. The war against yourself. Before we read it, let's see what's going on around the world. From holidays and observances, I found that it is Auntie's Day. Auntie's Day. We all have aunts, or many of us do. Might be a nice day to call and say, hey, I appreciate you being my aunt. You've always, and say something nice that they've done for you. Buffalo Soldiers Day. That was the first Black Army Regiment. They were known for their bravery. Began right after the Civil War in 1866. National Hamburger Day. Water Park Day. Parents' Day. You might call your parents too and tell them thank you for something that they've done for you. Reek Sunday. What is Reek Sunday? Well, there's a mountain in Ireland, Mount Croag Patrick, and from the ancient people of the land, they used to climb the mountain at the end of July. The word for the god that they would climb for was Lugh, L-U-G-H, I think. Yeah, and it was like an appreciation for the harvest, knowing that the spirit world was to be honored. And anyway, St. Patrick kind of helped it become a Christian holiday. Took what they were doing. He said, well, let's just put let's cloak it with some Jesus ideas and call it Reek Sunday. Don't know why. But anyway, that mountain is 764 meters tall, 2,500 feet. World Hepatitis Day and World Nature Conservation Day. We need to protect our environment for our children's children. So I would that all of us would be environmentalists. Do your part to make the world a healthy world. Our environment, our nest, we want to protect it. Okay, the war against yourself. And before we read that, let's look at our lesson one more time. I am not a body. I'm not a body. That's not you. What you can see there, that's not you. That's not your identity. You're an eternal spirit. Can't be seen with these eyes, but you can see it with the eyes of Christ. The heart, third eye, whatever. I am not a body. I'm free. I'm free from the body. For I am still as God created me. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. Pain is my own idea. It is not a thought of God, but one I thought apart from him and from his will. His will is joy and only joy for his beloved Son, and that I choose instead of what I made. Oh, and you know what? I wanted to read about a rosemary. I'm sitting out here in my garden in front of some corn with some Kentucky Wonder pole beans. Those golden bantam corn, kind of a small corn, but it's fast growing. And then I like to just grow my my green beans right up the corn stalks. So they haven't started producing yet, but it won't be long. We'll start doing it. There's a weed. Oh boy, I like to keep my weeds out of my garden. Okay, let's see. ARP rosemary, which is Rosemary officinalis. ARP rosemary is winter hardy through zone 6. So it'll make it through the winters here in zone 6. The USDA introduction is a hardier rosemary than others and handsome with a bushy spruce-like appearance. Spaced 3 to 4 foot circle. In zone 6, ARP should be planted sheltered from winter winds. A sandy mulch or planting near or next to large rocks in full sun helps rosemary through the coldest times in winter. Harvest rosemary year-round. Especially good in French breads and potato dishes. Zone 6 through 8. Of course, I grow plenty of potatoes to give me all the calories I need for the year. I usually don't eat just potatoes for my calories, but I have plenty to share, and people can share things with me. And I'm on a protected side because I have my garden on the south side of my house. When I was a young man, I planted my garden out in a nice field that I thought would be a great place for a garden. And my teacher, Charlie, my yoga teacher, he was quite a bit older than I mean, he was probably in his 80s when I was in my 30s. So he came over one day to kind of look at my garden. And he said, "Why do you have your garden so far from your house?" He said, "You move your garden close to your house." He said, "You'll manage it a lot better." Anyway, I think that's good advice from Charlie. And so I have my garden on the south side of my house, which protects it from the wind. I can plant things that are a little more tender, like I just planted a couple figs, a Celeste and a Chicago hardy fig. And so I'm going to see how they do winter through. I may cut them back and mulch them good, and then just let them grow back up in the winter. Because what's above ground will freeze out, but what's below ground should sprout back. And I'm going to try that anyway. The war against yourself. Do you not see the opposite of frailty and weakness is sinlessness? Innocence is strength, and nothing else is strong. The sinless cannot fear, for sin of any kind is weakness. The show of strength the tact would use to cover frailty conceals it not, for how can the unreal be hidden? No one is strong who has an enemy, and therefore the belief in weakness. Okay, let's go. No one is strong who has an enemy, and no one can attack unless he thinks he has. Belief in enemies is therefore the belief in weakness, and what is weak is not the will of God. Being opposed to it, it is God's enemy, and God is feared as an opposing will. Paragraph 2. How strange indeed becomes this war against yourself. You will believe that everything you use for sin can hurt you and become your enemy, and you will fight against it and try to weaken it because of this, and you will think that you succeeded and attack again. It is as certain you will fear what you attack as it is sure that you will love what you perceive as sinless. He walks in peace who travels sinlessly along the way love shows him. Isn't that nice to know? He walks in peace who travels sinlessly along the way love shows him. You know, you don't see yourself as guilty, and you don't see your brothers as guilty. We're all beloved of God, and he sees us as innocent. So let's see ourselves as innocent. The things you did that you think were sins, are nothing but mistakes. You might even think of them as dreams that you'll wake up from. Walk you at sea. He walks in peace who travels sinlessly along the way love shows him. For love walks with him there, protecting him from fear, and he will see only the sinless who cannot attack. Boy, that's where we want to get to, isn't it? See only the sinless who cannot attack. It's got to start with us, and then we're going to be salt the earth, and we'll help heal this planet from all this crazy war stuff that's going on all over the place. Walk you in glory with your head held high and fear no evil. Walk you in glory, you sinless ones, with your head held high and fear no evil. Fear no evil. The innocent are safe because they share their innocence. Nothing they see is harmful, for their awareness of the truth releases everything from the illusion of harmfulness. And what seemed harmful now stands shining in their innocence, released from sin and fear, and happily returned to love. They share the strength of love because they looked on innocence, and every error disappeared because they saw it not. Who looks for glory finds it where it is. Where could it be but in the innocent? The glory is where it is, in the innocent. Paragraph 4. Let not the little interferers pull you to littleness. There can be no attraction of guilt in innocence. Think what a happy world you walk, with truth beside you. Do not give up this world of freedom for a little sigh of seeming sin, nor for a tiny stirring of guilt's attraction. Would you for all these meaningless distractions lay heaven aside? Your destiny and purpose are far beyond them, in the clean place where littleness does not exist. Your purpose is at variance with littleness of any kind, and so it is at variance with sin. Paragraph 5. Let us not let littleness lead God's Son into temptation. His glory is beyond it, and measureless and timeless as eternity. Do not let time intrude upon your sight of him. Leave him not frightened and alone in his temptation, but help him rise above it and perceive the light of which he is a part. Your innocence will light the way to his, and so is yours protected and kept in your awareness. For who can know his glory and perceive the little and the weak about him? Who can walk trembling in a fearful world and realize that heaven's glory shines on him? In the last paragraph of this section, we are going to read a little bit more out of the next section. Paragraph 6, nothing around you but is part of you. Nothing around you but is part of you. Remember, I'm not a body. I'm part of everything around me. Nothing around you but is part of you. Look on it lovingly and see the light of heaven in it. So will you come to understand all that is given you. In kind forgiveness will the world sparkle and shine, and everything you once thought sinful now will be reinterpreted as part of heaven. How beautiful it is to walk clean and redeemed and happy through a world in bitter need of the redemption that your innocence bestows upon it. What can you value more than this? For here is your salvation and your freedom, and it must be complete if you would recognize it. And then our next section, the irreconcilable belief. And I think we'll read probably about 4 or 5 paragraphs. That will get a little start on it for tomorrow. The memory of God comes to the quiet mind. It cannot come where there is conflict, for a mind at war against itself remembers not eternal gentleness. The means of war are not the means of peace, and what the warlike would remember is not love. War is impossible unless belief in victory is cherished. Conflict within you must imply that you believe the ego has the power to be victorious. Why else would you identify with it? Surely you realize the ego is at war with God. Certain it is, it has no enemy. Yet just as certain is its fixed belief, it has an enemy that it must overcome and will succeed. Certain it is, it has no enemy. Yet just as certain is its fixed belief, it has an enemy that it must overcome and will succeed. 2. Do you not realize a war against yourself would be a war on God? Is victory conceivable? And if it were, is this a victory that you would want? The death of God, if it were possible, would be your death. Is this a victory? The ego always marches to defeat because it thinks that triumph over you is possible, and God thinks otherwise. This is no war. Only the mad belief the will of God can be attacked and overthrown. You may identify with this belief, but never will it be more than madness. And fear will reign in madness and will seem to have replaced love there. This is the conflict's purpose. And to those who think that it is possible, the means seem real. Paragraph 3. Be certain that it is impossible God and the ego, or yourself and it, will ever meet. You seem to meet and make your strange alliances on grounds that have no meaning, for your beliefs converge upon the body, the ego's chosen home, which you believe is yours. You meet at a mistake, an error in your self-appraisal. The ego joins with an illusion of yourself you share with it, and yet illusions cannot join. They are the same, and they are nothing. Their joining lies in nothingness. Two are as meaningless as one or as 1,000. The ego joins with nothing, being nothing. The victory it seeks is meaningless as is itself. Paragraph 4, and I think we'll end at this paragraph for today. Brother, the war against yourself is almost over. The journey's end is at the place of peace. The journey's end is at the place of peace. Would you not now accept the peace offered you here? This, in quotes, enemy you fought as an intruder on your peace is here transformed before your sight into the giver of your peace. Your enemy, in quotes, not really your enemy, but the one that you thought was your enemy, or they thought that they were your enemy. Your, in quotes, enemy was God himself, to whom all conflict, triumph, and attack of any kind are all unknown. He loves you perfectly, completely, and eternally. He loves you completely, perfectly, and eternally. The Son of God at war with his Creator is a condition as ridiculous as nature roaring at the wind in anger, proclaiming it is part of itself no more. Could nature possibly establish this and make it true? Nor is it up to you to say what shall be a part of you and what is kept apart. And of course, we're learning that we nothing around you but is part of you. That was the first sentence in paragraph 6 of the last section. So, okay, well, I think we know what to do. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. Pain is my own idea, it is not a thought of God, but one I thought apart from Him and from His will. His will is joy and only joy for His beloved beloved Son, and that I choose instead of what I made, and that I choose instead of what I made. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. Pain is my own idea, it is not a thought of God. Pain is my own idea, it is not a thought of God, but one I thought apart from Him and from His will. His will is joy and only joy for His beloved Son. His will is joy and only joy for His beloved Son. His will is joy and only joy for His beloved Son, and that I choose instead of what I made. His will is joy and only joy for His beloved Son. His will is joy and only joy for His beloved Son, and that I choose instead of what I made. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. And our word for peace is out of the Otomi people of Mexico, and it's Hmetho. Hmetho, Hmetho. I am not a body, and that's our word for peace, Hmetho. I am not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me. I choose the joy of God instead of pain. Hmetho.